Welcome to From Stardust to Us, in-depth conversations with thought leaders, artists, and spiritual activists, navigating the challenges of our times with integrity, joy, and purpose. I'm Bernice Marie Daly.
And I'm Linnell Hayden. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate our listeners. You can find us on YouTube, Buzzsprout, or any place where podcasts are found. If you enjoy our conversation, please help us reach more people by subscribing, liking, and commenting. So let's get into this week's conversation.
Greetings to our listeners, and today I am thrilled to introduce to you Rebecca-Sophia Strong. She is an award-winning filmmaker, playwright, and educator. She's exploring cosmology and embodiment as lived experience, which translates our cosmological knowledge into direct embodied inquiry. He's the author of and the creator of Embodied Cosmology, which is an interdisciplinary educational framework translating cosmological understanding into lived experiential practice. And she does this through immersive media, phenomenology, and pedagogy, supporting momentum, well-being, and human imagination as a force of nature and for cultural flourishing. She is also the creator of Cosmogenesis, the story of us, the recipient of the Best 360 film at the Swedish International Film Festival, and she teaches her Embodied Cosmology class at the University of Colorado in Boulder at the Fisk Planetarium. Her work has been selected for presentation at the International Planetarium Society Conference in Japan. And we are thrilled to have you and excited to talk to you about this fascinating, great imaginative work. I have the opportunity to offer the first question. So I have to say that your signature statement, what happens when cosmology moves from something we study to something we live? I have to say, when I read that and saw that first, it just jumped out at me. Please tell us more about that and what happened to you that this happened. Just let us know what it's all about.
What happened to me? I love that. Well, thank you both for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here and to be introduced to your audience as well. And I want to speak directly to two people that I believe it is through embodiment and that we can awaken to our cosmological nature and our cosmological origins. And when we tap into an embodied state of wonder and awe, we activate our human imagination, which I believe is how nature and the cosmos communicate to us as human beings. So how do we live our cosmological context? How do we live our cosmological understanding? Sometimes in the morning I wake up and I look at my hand and I go, oh my gosh, it took 13.8 billion years to create this structure and this particular human. And what is mine to do? And I get, I'm an unusual person. I would say, I like to say I have lived my life journey kind of backwards, in the sense of my 20s and 30s were kind of my retirement phase. I did a lot of traveling. I did a lot of retreats. I was really in this inquiry of what is mine to do. And I made a deliberate decision as a young person to harness my creativity towards a collective uh, flourishing. And I knew early on that I was a person of purpose. I feel we're all people of high purpose, and my inquiry was not, you know, what's my career or who's my mate, but my inquiry was, what is my purpose and how do I steward that and really what is mine to do. So I like to share a story that in my early 30s, my grandparents on the Strong side finished their life cycle and passed down, a small inheritance to all the grandchildren. And my very practical cousin Marcy took that 30 grand and bought a house. Put that as a down payment to a house. And I took that money and I actually employed myself for an entire year. And I paid myself a monthly salary. And that's actually when I kind of started to really harness all of the teachings that I had been privileged to experience, and started to write the Embodied Cosmology curriculum. I wrote a one-woman show, and I was really synthesizing kind of what I would call the wisdom of the elders. And I went out on a journey that year. It was actually many years, but that year was a concentrated time for me where I studied with Bill Plotkin and David Abram. I studied a lot with Joanna Macy and actually hosted and co-facilitated some retreats with Joanna Macy. She actually invited me to facilitate the circle, the Council of All Beings at the Ojai Foundation.
Wonderful. Oh, what great
Yeah,
Yeah.
teachers and experienced mentors.
yes,
Happy to hear that. That's wonderful.
thank you.
Okay, so Rebecca-Sophia, that is quite brave and thinking out of the box. I mean, not many young people do that. Um, and I've thought to myself, in the past, wouldn't it be wonderful if we took our young people and instead of when they're done with the, high school, instead of shoving them straight into college or work, let them take a year and sort of, just hold space for them to learn about themselves and learn, what their purpose, I guess, for lack of a better word, is. So that's really amazing that you had the foresight to do that. And I imagine you probably had some support with elders in your circle or mentors. And I just wanted to, touch on that a little bit, the kind of support you might have had in your community to be able to take such a bold step. I think most people would have done what your relative did and just take that money and try to be smart with it,
Yeah.
and maybe go to college. And so
Mhm.
what is it within you, do you think, that gives you that extra sort of spark, or is it just a matter of being so creative, thinking outside the box?
It's a great question. I think as a young person, I struggled a lot. I would say, I downloaded a statement once. Can I share this statement for a
Of
moment?
course, yeah.
So this is a statement that came for me in 2010 when I was living in Ojai, California, and I was the program director of the Ojai Foundation. I was out for a walk and I kept trying to kind of listen for my mantra or my incantation. And this is what came. I am an artist creating opportunity for the human imagination to embody its 13.8 billion year wisdom and ancestry, turning crisis and wound into healing, and art generating solutions that feed the children of all species for the next 1,000 years. And it still fills me with this energy, right? And I'm a person whose context got shook really hardcore as a kid. I lost my dad when I was a toddler. I'm a person who there were a lot of people, a lot of friends, parents who died. I knew about 15 people before
Wow.
I was 16 years old who had passed away, beginning with my father and kind of ending with my early love, Kenny, who got hit by a car, went in a coma, and I spent the three months of his last life, the last 3 months of his life, holding his hand, and teaching his parents kind of how to be with him as he was in this passage. And so uh, there was a lot of pain that I had to metabolize as a young person, and it sent me on a quest. I lived overseas in my early 20s. I actually got married very young when I was 21 to an incredible human being, and we went and moved and lived in Japan. We both got jobs. We worked as English teachers in two different organizations, and then we saved half of everything we earned and we backpacked through Asia for 6 months.
Oh,
And I got exposed in that time to Buddhism.
right.
And the Buddhists were talking about what do you do with pain and suffering?
Right.
And I got exposed to the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. I
Yes.
spent a whole month reading that book, and it really helped me turn that pain into a path of service. And how do we, the question from Sogyal Rinpoche was really like, how do we turn our pain into a path that allows us to support others in transmuting suffering into something that's generative versus something that cripples us or freezes us or has us go to sleep? How do we utilize it to awaken our human heart and participate in the story of life in a way that allows for more flourishing? So that really, really impacted me. I relate to Thomas Berry on this because what
Uh-huh.
we know about his story, I didn't get to meet him in person, but I feel very connected to him,
Yes.
was right when the automobile came out and the beautiful meadows he would walk in started to get paved into roads. He was like, okay, things are changing fast. I
Yeah.
need to kind of pull myself out. He, in his case, unlike mine, but in his case, he put himself into a monastery evidently at like age 12 or 13 because he wanted to think about what was coming. And I feel like that's what I did in my own way in my
Right.
early 20s, being in
Mm.
Asia, reading a lot about Buddhism, doing a lot of soul searching around what is this pain that comes from the biological or the family of origin shattering. And
Mm.
I was seeking a context that I think the sacred wound, right? It's like in my case, the context that we hold so precious is the family of origin. In my case, it shattered very young a couple of times. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and when I found Buddhism, but then when I found the 13.8 billion year story of the universe, it
Mhm.
it was like a kintsugi moment, right? Where the vessel of my life got broken. I was open to learning and searching for meaning, and I applied myself to that quest and was blessed by getting exposed to a lot of teachers, one of whom was, Brian Swim.
Right.
And when I first heard Brian's voice, I was in. I was just all in. I
Right.
knew he held a key for me. And I literally studied his work for 10 years. It was my avocation. I was in grad school. I was studying contemplative psychotherapy. I was studying all kinds of things, and in the background, I was learning the 13.8 billion year story. And I believe that science is a story of kinship. And the 13.8 billion year story for me was like the gold that reshaped my vessel
Mm.
into a larger, stronger sense of belonging. and a context that holds so much meaning and solves a lot of questions for me. It answers a lot of questions, and it gives me a place to look to when I get weary. It's like
Huh?
the
Of course.
creativity of the cosmos is so stunning and so speaks in these giant leap moments. It's like, okay, I can align. What happens when I align my heart, my mind, my heart, my will, my body to this context? It's very generative for me. It creates that sort of toroidal flow, and I stay in the dance of life.
Mm. Well,
Story.
there's a saying that out of our deepest wounds, our greatest gifts can emerge. I don't know who said it, but
Yeah, I believe
that
it's
sounds,
true.
Fabulous story. Thank you for
yeah.
sharing that. Also puts us within a fabulous context for your own emergence and what you share with us. And you spoke about the cosmogenesis, the story of us that you have created.
Yes.
It's a media performance. Um, Tell us about that because I think we have not been embodied primarily in so many ways,
Mm.
but certainly not in our understanding of our embodiment within the cosmos. And this story sounds like it's going to touch on that. Can you open that up for us a little bit? Tell us about it.
Sure, sure. Gosh, so many things go through my mind. Where do I begin?
Right, right, right.
Cosmogenesis, the story of us. First of all, what is it? It's a 110-minute stage play uh, that takes place in a planetarium. Uh, and inside of this stage play, there are three short films. So it's a combination of traditional theater on the stage in collaboration and conversation with the immersive screen of a planetarium. So the images are above you, behind you, to the sides of you, in front of you. And it's a story that is grounded in research. I When I mentioned earlier the sojourn I went on, the pilgrimage I went on and studied with Bill Plotkin and David Abram and Joanna Macy, Clarissa Pinkola, Estes Oren Lyons, Brian Swim, so get Gabriel Roth of the Five Rhythms, I and so much more, and my own deep kind of inquiry. Cosmogenesis is my attempt to throw all of that into a stage play. It's a social impact story that features five 19-year-olds, one in particular, Lotus, who was born in Asia, adopted by European American or Caucasian parents in the US. She's a dancer, and she's in this place in her life where her adoptive parents are trying to get her to quit dance, quit the arts, do that as a hobby, and study something more practical, like, hey, political science or something. And she's in this real uh, tumultuous place internally. She's born in Asia, so she's working with feeling invisible from an ethnic standpoint. She's feeling climate change. Had to scrape ash from a fire off of her window in order to get to school. Uh, and then she's got this teacher, Mr. Edwards, who's like basically teaching nihilism. It doesn't matter, there's no meaning. Um, and and then her adoptive parents are saying, hey, quit your passion, put it on the side, do this more practical thing. And she's feeling it all. And she has a dream of her birth mother who says, you are a gem of the universe. Do you know why we call you Lotus? No mud, no lotus. Thank you, Thich Nhat Hanh. And so keep going. You've got this. She wakes up from that dream, takes an alternate path to school, to her class, walks by the planetarium, and overhears this cosmology professor who is in part Brian Swim and in part a couple of Jedediah Isler, who's a Black woman astronomer. It's kind of a meld of these two people. And Sophia says, "Is it pigeon shit or the background radiation of the universe?" And Lotus is like, "One, here's an adult with passion. Wow, okay, this is new." And then, whoa, what is this magical place? So the planetarium becomes her magical world, and she asks Sophia to mentor her. And that begins this beautiful process of getting enveloped into the 13.8 billion year context. Uh, and one more question and one more thing to add about cosmogenesis that I think is really special is I got to meet John E. Powell from the Othering and Belonging Institute, UC Berkeley, a couple of years ago, and he impacted me so deeply. His personhood, his presence, and they're creating this amazing praxis of how do we bridge versus break, and how do we belong versus other, which I think is fundamentally crucial, important skills to be learning right now. And so I took the work from their institute and grounded it into movement based practices, because I'm a mover, I'm a dancer, Lotus is a dancer. And so there's a small classroom inside of Cosmogenesis. There's a teacher who teaches movement and ecology and teaches some of these practices, widening the circle of empathy. Again, how do we bridge with someone who's different from us or holding a different energy or standpoint versus create the wall and break? And so the intention with cosmogenesis is that it actually teaches intellectual tools, perhaps psychospiritual tools, practical tools around this belonging.
So I'm wondering, I know that you've developed, first I want to mention, as I was doing some research on your work, I found an old YouTube TEDx video. So, and it's very, it's a stage, sort of, you have people on stage and you're moving them around as if they're part of the universe. So was that sort of the seed out of which this work, I guess, has sprung? Now it's a big, full-fledged, full dome, immersive experience. And where can we see that? Can people actually go and see it somewhere, or is that online as well?
So I call the whole body of work embodied cosmology. And I actually have the Institute for Embodied Cosmology, which is a 501c3 project. And then under the umbrella of that, there is Cosmogenesis, The Story of Us, which is the stage play, also these 3 films. And then there's the curriculum. So when you watch the TED Talk, you see the photosynthesis and the multicellularity. The curriculum is 15 parts. So it's 15 giant leap moments of the 13.8 billion year story taught in movement. So like right now I teach with my colleague John Keller, who's the director of the Fisk Planetarium. We have 75-minute classes, and the young people are on their feet for about 55 of those 75 minutes, and they're interacting and engaging and super connected, and it's very, very generative. We have we are working towards producing Cosmogenesis at the Fisk Planetarium this August 2026. So people can fly into Boulder or come to our performance. It's at right now the so 28th to the 30th of August.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, and we're also setting up alliances with planetaria on the East Coast. So we are working towards a collaboration. It's in the very early stages at the American Museum of Natural History. We're also the Charles Hayden in Boston. So we're working towards an East Coast tour in 2027, 2028, as
Nice.
well as connected in Europe to planetaria. We have 5 planetaria in Germany, Prague, and Lucerne, Switzerland, who are interested in bringing cosmogenesis
Oh,
to
that's
their
wonderful.
programs.
There's something about being there in person too, I imagine.
Oh, yeah.
In this world,
So
we're
fabulous.
always constantly online.
Yes.
So
Yes.
fabulous, so fabulous.
So I just kind of wanted to, in this time, we're living through where there's so much angst about, the planetary climate crisis. How do you see shifts happening when people realize that we're actually part of the cosmos? And does that help to sort of connect to our place here on our own planet? Does it strengthen that relationship? Or, I know I was thinking about this morning when you ask children what they want to be when they grow up. You oftentimes hear the answer, I want to be an astronaut. So there's something innate within us where we are curious about the universe and the cosmos. How do you see a shift in your students where there's a greater perhaps connection or love to this planet after sort of embodying being part of the cosmos?
Yeah, it's a great question. What I see is an awakening. So the unique thing about the embodied cosmology curriculum is it gets people up on their feet and interacting. And the students, a couple of students in particular, the first 3 weeks of class literally said to me, "Oh my gosh, this is not only so fun, this is kind of profound because none of the other teachers have us exchange our names, so we don't become a a subject. We stay kind of in this objective place. So in this class, basically what they're saying is like you have us become subjects with each other, like unique humans. And they say, the other teachers don't have us interact. Maybe they'll have us go in small groups, but they'll just have us talk about the content. They don't ask us to include ourselves. And so I'll say, we move through the space. I'll say stop in front of another person. I call it a cosmic milling. What was the best part of your day so far? Like when did you feel most present, most most awake, most here? So they'll start talking, and then we go layers and layers more deeply. I bring up, placed when we did the lesson on how unique the Earth is. So part of understanding cosmology is understanding the uniqueness of planet Earth. We're not a rocky planet. We're not gaseous planets. It's a very special, unique situation, and what makes it like that. We can point to the supernova and the transiron elements that created such opportunities as gold and silver and nitrogen, and all of the and rubies and emeralds and potassium and all of the unique things that the treasure chest, as Brian Swim says. And we'll talk about the water and the water cycles and the flourishing of life and the extinctions, and how out of each extinction there's been this tiny little percentage of life, of biological life that snuck through and then reflourished. And what does it mean to be a part of a story and to be someone who's still carrying the torch of life through all of this time, through all of these extinctions, and even through all of these unfortunate human wars, the ones like we are here carrying this torch that actually originates back to the beginning of time. And what's it like to look at each other from this 13.8 billion year perspective? And what if you knew, right? Joanna Macy used to ask this question, like, if you knew you could not fail, and that the web of life was really at your back, and I say in your cells, what would you do with this one wild and cosmic life? Thank you, Mary Oliver. And so we're playing now that we, like last week, we went through the entire story, and I almost said the children, I asked the children, but like I asked these, 19 to 21-year-olds, like, okay, what's something you're going to take with you from class today? And it just blows my mind. Like, the character arc from the beginning where they walk in, they're just, on their phone, and now they're connecting to each other. There's so much energy in the room. They're using their voices, they're moving their bodies. And when I stop and ask them to please say something you'll take with you from today, it's profound. I hear perspective, ancestry, lineage, uh, hope, um, purpose, wisdom, guidance. Like I hear them almost spiritually evolving or spiritually maturing
Right in
from
front of your eyes.
right in front of my eyes, Bernice. Exactly. It's like I feel like I see them come in with this level of hopelessness and this like level of almost dread and undoubtedly existential angst. Like undoubtedly, can we just assume that most human beings like are suffering from existential angst? And so bringing in a context of meaning, it's not just meaning, it's resilience. It's like, are you kidding me? We talk about psychospiritual resilience, we talk about the vagus nerve and the polyvagal theory, and it's like these are really helpful practices, and it's even bigger than that. Like
Mhm.
like when we look at the whole story, we see this persistence, this elegance, this creativity, and it keeps going. And I do believe that human beings are charged. I do believe we are people of purpose, and
Mhm.
there's no exception to that.
Mhm.
And I do believe that the universe is actually relying on us now to be the dreamers and the shapers of how the story unfolds from here.
Mm.
And I believe that it is through the imaginal space that the human imagination is a part of nature, that the human imagination is actually a force of nature, and and that it is the invisible kind of secret currency that links us to what we call the cosmos, like to this source or this force that, some people kind of focus on the cataclysm of the cosmos or the violence in the
Right,
cosmos, and I
right.
and I'm like, wow, that's just so interesting, because when you look at like hydrogen, like proton and electron coming into this dance, it's trillions and trillions of degrees. The universe is expanding and cooling. Everything's kind of moving away from each other, is how we
Mhm.
understand it. And like literally a subatomic particle made of three quarks, the proton like gravitates the electron into our orbit, creating hydrogen. That did you know that the hydrogen that you drank in your tea this morning is the hydrogen that was made 13 billion years ago. Like, nope, that was like, there are these non-repeating moments in the universe where the universe gives us another set of beautiful and, ingredients to play with. It's
Yeah,
just
that's
like mind
mind-blowing.
blowing.
That's mind-blowing.
It is.
We
It
all have
is.
the same ancestor or
Mind
star
blowing.
somewhere out there, right?
We all have the same ancestors. We do. We have cosmic ancestors. We have astronomical ancestors, right? Like the elements. And we have biological ancestors that span way bigger than just our great grandparents.
Yeah.
They include them, right? Thankfully, that's how we got here. And our sense of ancestry is pretty epic. And what happens to our own sense of self, our own sense of courage, our own sense of creativity when we align with that? I think that's the offering, that's the opening, that's the possibility we can move into.
What a fabulous story that is. There is so much I like. I want to ask you like 7 things at the same time.
I understand.
But so all of that speaks to me about imagination. It speaks about deep time, I believe is the phrase that's used. I
Mm.
love this quote that I saw of yours. You remind us that the human body is made up of 76 trillion cells that have been forming for 13.8 billion years. Uh, there is, I'm not a number person, but I got to tell you, there is something so profound about sort
Mm.
of tasting that and letting it in that it just, you don't even know what to say. It's so amazing. It's
Yes.
literally incredible. We have a hard time believing it.
I think that's why movement is so significant, because I think I end my TED Talk something like, we're literally sitting on all this potential, and we know the research that sitting is kind of like the new smoking. I mean, that's been out for about 6 years now. But there's something about movement that to me unlocks the intelligence that literally is inside of our genes.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Somatic learning. That is a whole arena of made up of so many parts that we essentially avoid for the most part in our culture because it's all up here, right? Um,
mhm.
yeah. So to be embodied, to be embodied.
To be embodied activates so much. I'm also a psychotherapist, and I work with EMDR, which is a very physical uh, method of psychotherapy. It helps people with trauma resolution. It also helps people really start to unlock the brain and the power of the human brain. And allows for this bilateral stimulation, which allows us to start to play with all of the capacities that we have. And movement, there's a lot of intelligence in the feet. We know that the we call them the end points, the hands and the feet. All the nerves come to a point, and getting into motion, getting into movement, getting into the creative process, it activates all of the wisdom that's inside of our cells. That kind of incantation that I said of like, you know, bringing to life the 13.8 billion year wisdom and ancestry. There's a lot to that. There's waking up the glandular intelligence. I think movement allows for a deep circulation, and in that circulation we also get to invite the circulation of the imaginal realm and learn how to bring that into form.
Imaginal realm, fascinating term. Um, Could you play with that just a little bit?
I think, Brian Swim, talks about the noosphere. Uh, it's a little bit different, but it's like, our cosmology and our worldview kind of creates purpose and meaning. And that informs our mind, and our mind informs our will, right? And our will kind of engages our body, and our body is connected to nature. Nature also informs the body informs the will can inform and open the heart and illuminate the mind. Any kind of practice that brings you into a deeper state of belonging and connectedness allows for, some people call them dreams, intuition, visualizations, right? Some people get visions. The imagination, I believe it's really important right now on our planet to be visualizing what we want to see versus what we are seeing. Some people say things happen twice. So, for example, this podcast is actually, it actually came from an imagination. It came from imagining that this conversation would be fun or generative or great for your listeners. So it first happened in the realm of thought, the realm of possibility,
Uh-huh.
right? And then we take the actions. I believe that this is a time, I'm a doer. I believe in action, massive action, and making effort and connecting. And so everything we know happens twice. It happens first in the conceiving of it, and then if we take those actions, it happens in the creation of that. Now, that can go in the wrong hands. That can go badly, as we know, right? But I think we're trying to evolve. I believe we're in a time where we've we're still trying to shake off, in the morning how you get up and you move because you want to shake off the cortisol. Um, and and get into a fresh start. I believe we're in a process of shaking off the Cartesian worldview and the 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 philosophies that taught us we are observers versus participants. I
And
believe
separate.
we're and separate. That's part of it, right? Like that Cartesian worldview of like
Mhm.
Earth and humans are separate, consciousness and the body are separate, the universe is out there and we're just over here. I mean, we look at, television, so much in our life, in the modern culture encourages us to be observers or in the audience
Yeah.
versus on the field as we're in the cosmic. So my invitation to people is like, we are in a cosmic arena.
Yeah.
Took us 13.8 billion years to get here. And we are living on this planet that is stunning and at a time that is asking us to shake off
Mhm.
our apathy, to shake off the placenta of 15th century philosophy and open into what is actually the opportunity of our times, which I believe is to activate our creative selves. I feel like creativity is the most powerful source that we have, creativity and community, and to bring our creativity into being. This is not about getting it right or putting ourselves into, like James Carse talks about society versus culture. Society is very interested in structure and hierarchy. It's necessary in the sense of creating order. It's very helpful to have stoplights. It's very helpful to have street signs. It's very helpful to know who's in charge of certain things for efficiency. But if we do that at the sake of culture, this society is playing the finite game. Culture's playing the infinite game. The infinite game, the goal of the infinite game is to keep it all alive. It's to keep it all at play. We are in this time where we are in a cosmic arena. We have telescopes, we have microscopes, we have ways to send money to people who need it. We have ways to educate ourselves. We have practices that are free that can activate our cellular intelligence every single morning when we wake up. And we have each other in a way unlike ever in history through the internet. I mean, how did you two find me? How did I find you? Right? We have each other in this way that is unlike ever in the history of time. And so we actually, one definition that Caroline Casey talks about of maturity is having access to all resources. So, what would it mean for us to claim those and to play the most gorgeously beautiful game that we can play? Not that life is a game in that way, but that we are in this arena. It's not about security anymore. It's not about security in the sense of uh, shoring up supply. It's about to me, the challenge of our day, the opportunity of our day is how fully can we be here in our own beautiful, one wild and precious life and vessel. How do we rev up this vessel and take good care of it? The Haudenosaunee, when they greet each other, their word for hello literally translates to thank you for being well. I believe it's our we self-responsibility is keeping ourselves well, knowing when we need to ask for help in order to do that. How do we keep ourselves well? And then play full out through our creative work in the cosmic arena and contribute what we can so that we become the stepping stones for biological life to make it through this very stressed time so that 600 years from now, there is biological life on planet Earth that gets to flourish. And hopefully at that point, there is peace.
Well, I mean, and that speaks to having positive intentions and using our technologies and our thoughts that become things in a positive manner rather than focusing maybe on our fears. We're very fear-based right now. And I'm glad you're talking about the movement and embodiment. I mean, if our bodies were not made to move, we would basically be rooted like plants, right? And we're rocks, we wouldn't move. So there's some ancient intelligence within our body. We know that we inherit generational trauma, as well as wisdom.
Yes.
So I'm glad that you are teaching these courses, but for those of us maybe not in Colorado, is there something that how can we connect to that if we don't have the opportunity to take your course or a course that teaches that connection with the cosmos through the body? I mean, we can all sit around and read books, and I do that. I love that. I'm very, intellectual. I love to have conversations. I love to read. I love to write. It's very sedentary. I'm not much of a mover. I'm not a dancer. And so those of us who maybe, aren't in that community, what can we do at home? Do you have any ideas for, or even people that are movers, that are more comfortable moving their body in dance or whatever? What do you have any suggestions for us?
so in general, or in terms of applying like embodied cosmology?
Yeah,
Or-
just to sort of to connect definitely to
Mm,
the
mhm.
to feeling like we are part of the cosmos and not
Yes.
separate from the universe. I we grew up thinking the universe was something out there. The
Mhm.
cosmos is something out there, it's something separate, and here's Earth way over here. But really, it's more like we're a little pea within pea soup. Like the cosmos, we're in it. We're not like
Mhm.
out of the soup bowl. Am I making sense?
We,
How can we connect to the soup?
mhm. How can we connect to the soup? I love it. Well, I believe that's where traditions like Tai Chi, yoga, meditation come from, right? We have at this point our in the timeline of humanity so many traditions that contribute to waking up the radiant body, waking up, right? Anything that contributes to a sense of sanity. And I would say, right, I believe every day is an opportunity. Right. So it's a little bit like a ceremony. Ceremonies are constituted by having a beginning, a middle, and an end. So how do you start your day? I just recently I have a neighbor who's in her 70s. She goes out every morning, stands near one of the trees out here, and she does like a functional movement. She just goes like this, she lifts her hands up and down a bunch of times, and then she's, twisting. And then she does sort of the skier pose where she lifts her hands up over her head and then down and then up and then down and up. And I've begun to do this, right? So what are your practices that get the blood moving? Circulation. Think in terms of circulation. So you're breathing, you're moving, you're sounding, starting your day with a movement practice or a gratitude practice, water, celebrating water, having your tea and giving thanks for the hydrogen in that water that came from 13 billion years ago. Um, in the middle of the day, how are you aligning? Scott Cody taught me from the Embodied Institute practice where you put your thumb in your belly button and your palm rests on your hara, and you stand with your feet open and you bend your knees a little and you take in 10 centering breaths. Takes maybe a minute and 20 seconds, middle of the day. End of day, how do you give thanks? Gratitude brings us into the galaxy brain. It raises our frequency. It can be it's incredibly important when we're not feeling it. So I have the 10 finger gratitude practice where I'll be out for a walk and I'll literally touch each finger with a gratitude until I get to 10, and sometimes I do 20. Right? Another practice is to step outside of your house before you go to bed and look at the sky. Maybe it's cloudy, maybe it's raining, maybe it's snowing, maybe there's a windstorm. Maybe it's a bright open sky and you see the stars and you know that there's a universal love and agape. You touch base with that agape that's been traveling from the beginning of time. We don't live in a terrified universe. We live in a stunning universe its language is elegance and beauty, and I believe there's a universal love in that. And
This is all
so,
reminding me of ancient wisdom
yeah.
when it comes to ritual. It's sort of bringing back the
Mhm.
ancient practices of ritual within
Mhm.
community, as you're doing with your students, and even just on your own, where you do the gratitude practice or the movement in the morning first thing.
Absolutely. And I think there's a real power. I knew you were going to ask me this question. There is something really powerful about lifting your arms above your head. If you're able to do that, if you're not able to do that, if you're a listener who's not able to do that, then visualize doing it. This tells your body, your brain, and the world around you that you are here, that you exist, and that you are healthy and well, and you are here for it, right? Uh, it, when you think of like someone who just won a marathon, or the people in the Olympics, or like,
Exuberance. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, exuberance. Me, when I like got to produce my play, which
Oh,
only
sure, sure.
1 to 5% of plays get premiered. There's something about this, and there's also the sphenoid bone in the cheeks, that when we lift the sphenoid bone, it triggers the awe response in the brain and nervous system. It's the opposite of when you're feeling depressed or sullen, right? So literally lifting your gaze and opening your perspective and opening up your arms has a direct neural pathway to that sense of awe, presence, and belonging. So these are some things that I would
Wonderful.
suggest.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's fabulous. I'm remembering that we're sharing this conversation on the day that this morning, somewhere early, the astronauts who were coming around the moon for the first time, the humans have done that trip, shall I say,
Yes.
and how exhilarating and amazing that is in light of everything you're saying. And
Yeah.
also, I remember there's been times when there's been, I guess it's through astronomy, that will tell us there's certain planets that seem to be in alignment at certain times.
Mm.
And I remember, like, maybe it was last fall, I remember going down to the Long Island Sound, which is not far from me, and looking up and a certain time that they suggest that you be there, and bajillions of miles away. But there was this connection of four planets that you could see at this particular time and such.
Mm.
It was just amazing and inexplicable. And somehow I was connected to that. I don't know how. I don't, my head does not get that, but my body does. The rest of me does. You just
Yes.
get that, and it's amazing and beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing your work and so much of your story and your presence. And I loved you said the exact wording, but it was, we live in a universe that is loving. That there is this love that is sort of, I'm imagining, everywhere, all the time, all at once. That is celebrating, all about celebration and
Yes.
creativity. So thank you. This
Yes.
has been a wonderful time to be with you. I appreciate you, and I
Mm.
appreciate our
Mm.
time. With two little things before we go, I'd like to have an opportunity to tell our listeners how to get a hold of you. What is your preferred way of being reached? And you can just share that right now, and we'll also include it in the write-up that we'll be doing about it as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bernice. So the Cosmic Therapist on Instagram, you're welcome to follow our posts or direct message me. That's a great way to, for invitations. I am looking for a publisher for an up and coming book as well as a children's book. So you can reach me there. If you would
What's the
like
name of
to,
that book?
the name is not yet revealed, but
Oh, okay,
I
okay,
do have the name, but
okay.
it's not yet
You
revealed.
have
Thank
a
you.
name of work in progress. Okay, good to know.
Yes, yes. I have a children's book as well as another book that's coming hopefully out
Wonderful.
in the next while. And then cosmogenesisfilm.com, you can put your name in there and get on our newsletter. And that's where you'll find out about up and coming shows, as well as kind of get some juice about the creative process and encourage your creative process. So yeah,
Thank
those are
you.
the two
Thank you.
places. Sure.
So we like to close our conversations, as you know, with a favorite quote that our
Yes.
guest has shares with us, and so we invite you to do that with us now.
Thank you, Linnell and Bernice. So this is a quote that has gotten me through multiple moments in my creative work where I could have easily given up. And this quote helped me stay moored to an eyes on the prize. Joseph Chilton Pierce, who actually wrote a book called Cosmic Egg, and was a man who really encouraged the cosmic soul in the human, which I'm just learning about him. But this quote: passionate intent combined with unconflicted behavior changes the structure of the universe.
Oh,
I
say
love
that
this
again.
quote.
Say that again.
Passionate intent combined with unconflicted behavior changes the structure of the universe. Joseph
Wonderful.
Chilton Pierce. Yeah,
Thank you.
like the universe evolves with us. We are not separate. We are integral. And to
Right.
me, this quote represents that time and space, or space and time, evolve with us. We are participants in how things get shaped. So
Wonderful.
that's
Wonderful.
Thank you.
why
Thank you.
Rebecca-Sophia
Thank you.
Strong, thank you so much.
you're
Thank
so
you. What
welcome.
a delight. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Be well.